What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and boy have I got some thoughts on this freshly released early access version of the Tokyo Xtreme Racer reboot. After all, if I'm going to have to go 20 years between games in this series, I might as well go ahead and talk about it when I actually get the chance when the game's new. This early access release is pitched as basically the first chunk of the game. The current card count's at about 48, of which about 20-ish, maybe, probably not even that, are actually useful in the grand scheme of things because the way the game is played out and segmented. The same exact Tokyo highways and expressways this series has featured forever now, and 214 rivals from like 27, 28 teams or somewhere thereabouts to go ahead and race. At the time of making this video, I've raced 212 of those, and that's taken me about 12 and a half hours or so of gameplay. Within those 12 hours or so of gameplay, I haven't really encountered anything particularly noteworthy or short-stopping. The few bugs I've encountered along the way have all been the same exact behaviors and things I would expect from any other game in this series. It's a janky PS2 game, and that's why you should like it. As I usually do in these videos, here's the too long didn't watch review, which is very simple for this game and for where this is currently. You have 2 hours of a refund window on Steam. You will either understand why there are weirdos like myself who have been playing this franchise for like 25 years and eagerly awaiting this day that surely was never going to happen, but somehow I get to talk about a newly released Tokyo Xtreme Racer game. It's just wild. Or alternatively, you will think those of us who are excited for this are absolute morons because this game is stupid and dumb and it's a janky PS2 game. You either get it or you don't get it. It's very much just that simple. So with that out of the way, let us begin. For those of you guys who are unfamiliar with this series, the gameplay revolves around battling opponents on the highways and expressways of Tokyo and depleting their SP meter. It's basically a fighting game turned into a racing game. You drive from car to car, flash your high beams, you challenge them to a race, then you smoke them. You smoke enough team members, eventually you get a race, the team leader, who is pretty significantly faster. Then once you beat enough team leaders, you get a race against a section boss, which is even more significantly faster. And then once you take down enough section bosses, you also get a race against a boss, which will probably make you want to break your controller or alternatively cheese the game, because that's kind of what you do. In the meantime, you build up your car's performance by tuning it up, using your race winnings, and grinding it out. This is very much a game, this is very much a series where grinding is kind of the point. And really, that's it. It's incredibly simple, there really isn't much to it. You'd think it'd get old, but as evidenced by the fact that I've been playing this series for so long, and I'm so excited for a new release in this series. It's one of those things where if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It's also a formula that breeds tremendous replayability, as there's always different cars and things to do and different pathways throughout the game that always keeps it fresh. And just, I've been playing it for 25 years and I'm still excited for more. Come on. Now, as for my thoughts on all this, let me just start by saying this has been one of the most bizarre racing games I've ever played, because it's 2025 and I'm talking about a new Tokyo Xtreme Racer game, and yet somehow it's still a janky PS2 game. This is not a reboot in the standard way. Typically when a franchise gets rebooted, it's just that. It's starting over. You know, some goofy changes that muck with some of your favorite features of the original for no reason. Some goofy story or cutscene changes that just have you questioning why they made that change, just because someone wanted to have their touch of artistic influence or something, or you know, the lighting that changes everything and removes all the ambiance, or you know, things that bring the series more in line with modern sensibilities like loot boxes. Yeah, no, this is not that. This is a strict remaster, well and truly. This is a freaking PS2 game with a new graphics engine. This is the same Tokyo Xtreme Racer, once again, warts and all, but new. And it's very weird. The car handling is uncomfortably similar to the classic games in this series. Still maintain that weird, floaty, yet incredibly grippy, but You can't really drift ever, and it just understeers. You pinball off the walls to the heart's content. Arcade-style driving that the series has had. It's the same. It feels exactly the same. It sucks, but it's the way it should be, because that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. The AI is basically 100% the exact same as all the past games. It will wreck in exactly the same spots that have always been a problem for them to navigate. You'll see the traffic cars spawning in can be seen doing a little bunny hop, which is something that they always did back in the day. It's still a thing. They can't take turns to save their life. They'll stop on the brakes as soon as they get anywhere near a corner, and you'll just fly on by them, and then they'll blast past you on the straightaway, because that's how this game handles difficulty, by making cars that are just obscenely fast for the opponents, and then you have to figure out a way to catch up and cheese it and block the snot out of them and shove them into traffic cars. It's exactly the same. Multiplayer doesn't exist at all, not even a hint that it may exist in the future. It's just not a thing that's going to happen, and that's just the way it is, because that's the way it's always been. The music is, again, exactly the same. They took all the past songs from Tokyo Xtreme Racer and just threw them in a blender and said, yeah, this is going to be our soundtrack here. We're going to remix it a little bit, but we're going to go with the exact same songs, because you know what? The fans will probably appreciate it, and I certainly do. It's still just as repetitive, it's still just as annoying every now and then, but it's still just as amazing when Battle of the Empire comes on and you just like, oh. Cockpit view, not a thing. Why would it be a thing? Each team and opponent still, for whatever reason, features a short little biography about who they are and why their tuning is the way it is. Normal people in 2025 do not care about this, but you're gosh darn right, this is crucial to my experience of Tokyo Xtreme Racer. The translations are still just as janky too, which earns them bonus points in my book. We do live in the future where we have AI and all this stuff that can supposedly make things better and take care of that for us, but no, it's better this way. Although I will say, they did get rid of the card descriptions, which is most unfortunate, because we won't get gems such as pure concept design and bighorn technology, which are, it's just sad. The quote-unquote story is still absolute nonsense, overly dramatic story that they think you care about, but there's no reason at all you should care about. It's just goofy cutscenes with, again, poor translations and jank. The story, quote-unquote, is basically a 13-year-old's idea of deep because they heard Linkin Park on the radio for the first time, and that's exactly what I want from Tokyo Xtreme Racer. So well and truly, this game feels like they took the old code that they just had lying around, just sitting there waiting to go, and somehow just like copy-pasted it into Unreal 5, and here we are. When you play this game, you're playing a Dreamcast game. You're playing a PS2 game. You're playing, at best, Import Tune Challenge on the Xbox 360. No matter what, you're playing a budget title from the era when W was president. These were different times. And that's why this game is so bizarre. It is well and truly an anachronism. It's half nostalgia on my half, and half, holy smokes, the Mad Lads went and did it. This should not exist. The market has spoken time and time again. Racing games have been on a decline for years. This series already flatlined for 20 years. Not to mention that it was always, at best, a budget title that was kind of a, if you know, you know. And yet, here we are, with this game sitting at overwhelmingly positive, and as I wrote this, 95% positive review score on Steam, and seemingly everybody loving this game. It just... It doesn't compute. It is well and truly a testament to a fun gameplay loop that knows what it is and doesn't care to be something that it isn't. Now, with that all said, there is one thing I do want to talk about really quickly, because it is the one thing that I can point to as this is actually new to the series, and that is the perk system. This is a second type of currency that you get from bigger battles that can be used to unlock new tuning parts, unlock access to cars in the dealerships, as well as give you more active perks such as boost to your SP meter, or the number of credits you get out of battle, or bonuses for doing longer distance drives. This is actually something I view as a tremendous positive, even though I think right now it's kind of needed to be rebalanced in the early access and looked at a little bit deeper. But one of the big things with this series is progression has to be gate-kept to keep the player from becoming way too fast and just steamrolling anybody and everybody without any sort of challenge in the world. That's always sort of been an issue, and there's been different ways that it's been handled, and background systems and mileage limits and all this stuff, and who you race against can often give you a car that was way too fast, and this looks to address the problem, and I think the game overall as a whole will eventually be better for it. It just needs to be something that they test and tune a little bit further at this stage. So wrapping this portion of the video up, if it isn't clear by now, this game gets my seal of approval and recommendation from me. As I said earlier, you got a refund window of 2 hours. You'll know if you like janky PS2 games in Unreal Engine 5 within 2 hours. Just trust me on that one. So I want to go ahead and take this moment to shift towards the future and what I'd like to see from the eventual full release of this game later on this year. So the first thing I want to mention is the issue of cars, which I truly believe is where this game will live or die long term. It's early access, this isn't the full car list. I'm not going to judge it on that, but I do have a few bones to pick that I hope to goodness don't make it to full release. First off, I hope in full release we aren't limited to starting off with one of 3 starter cars. And for example, it's really kind of silly that I could start off with a current generation ND Mazda MX-5, but I had to wait to unlock the older MX-5s, which are very clearly inferior performance-wise. And then also, because the car list is somewhat limited, it feels like you often are racing a Super or GTR that's tuned up and got all these, bodywork attachments and all this stuff, but surely it must be absolutely stock under the hood, because there's no way that they wouldn't blow your doors off. But, those are the options that they have to choose from, so that's what you get. It's not the worst it's ever been. It's not nearly as bad as Import Tuner Challenge, where they had such an incredibly limited car list. But for me, Tokyo Xtreme Racer 0 still holds up against Tokyo Xtreme Racer 3 solely because it has like 50% more cars, even though number 3 is a far better game overall, just because this is a type of game that needs more cars. Quantity is a quality all itself. And then with the perk system and unlocking access to cars in the dealership, it's a good concept and one that I do like, again, but it needs tuning. For example, I shouldn't need to wait so long to buy one of the new BRZ or GR86s that by the time I unlock access to them, it feels like, why would I buy that car? That's not going to be a car that's going to suit me down the road all that much further. Also, there's been a little bit of discussion regarding whether or not this game should have non-Japanese cars, because currently, right now, it only has Japanese cars and nothing's been announced any other way. And I will 100% take the stance of this game would absolutely need to have non-Japanese cars in it. Because, yes, I understand that the Japanese tuner car culture thing here is very much the key focus. However, you need cars that are radically different. You need goofy stuff like a Di Tommaso Pantera or a Lotus Europa, a Dodge Viper or Ford GT to just be like, why does that exist? How about a Pontiac Firebird with an Iron Duke 4-cylinder in it? Why? Because why not? Do you have no fun? I well and truly think that the biggest question mark going forward with this game is going to be the car list, and that is what I'm most interested in hearing more about, because that is where this game will live or die. Beyond that, I would really like to see some more features from the past in this series make a comeback. Some of this, I think, is very much a case of it's early access. They're keeping a little something back. Just, it'll come in time, too. It's just not going to happen. However, things I'd like to see come back would be time of night settings, the ability to remove OEM wings from cars, because sometimes we just like no wings, rain, overheating, overboost. Quite frankly, I absolutely hate nitrous in this game. It makes it so much easier that it's kind of game breaking in a sense. But pressing that select button for that overboost back in Tokyo Xtreme Racer 3, that was great. Bring that back. Also, engine swaps. I hope that makes a comeback, and that's another thing again. maybe this time make it a little bit more clear and not make it some random mileage that you kind of have to know about. That would be great if you could do that. So thumbs up there, as well as getting your aero parts in carbon fiber to save weight and make your car more legit out there. And lastly, I very much hope this is a thing that will change. That is the in-game navigation in the menus. This is one of those things where it's caught between being a PC game where you navigate with your mouse because that's how you use a PC, and a game that you play with a controller and you navigate with the controller. Right now it just doesn't work. It's annoying and it's clunky. It works best with the mouse in the menus, but the gameplay is best with the controller, so you're like switching back and forth, or alternatively you're just kind of dealing with the jank, and it's not the good kind of PS2 jank. So gotta complain on that one. Oh, and before I forget, mods and stuff like that. Not that I'm saying this game should focus on being a mod platform or anything like that, but it is on Unreal Engine, which, you know, has been a pretty open, accessible engine. As long as they don't do things to prevent this from being open and accessible, I think there's a very bright future in front of it. We've already seen mods to add in custom decals. We've already seen people changing the time of day settings and all this stuff. The sky could be the limit, and I hope to goodness they don't step in and say, no fun allowed, you can't do that here. Alrighty, I apologize. I'm terrible at wrapping up videos, and I'm going off script here and off of the things that I've written that I want to talk about in this because, again, I'm only going to get one chance, so I might as well go ahead and blow my load, so to speak. For you guys out there who are newer to Tokyo Xtreme Racer, probably this is the first one that you've played. One thing I do want to mention is the transmission is just about the most powerful upgrade in the game. The ability to have your gearing actually make sense and keep your car in the power band will make your car significantly faster, even more than, like, you know, just adding 10 more horsepowers. So do keep that in mind, that you should be tuning and tweaking your gearing, because you will have a much better time of it, and you will find the game way easier if you actually take the time to tune your car. That's what you're supposed to do in this game. You're supposed to tune and tweak. Along the lines of difficulty, there's a couple of late game bosses, most notably Shua Strong, the soda pop guy with the Mazda 3 series that's ridiculously fast for the stage in the game, as well as Melancholic Angel. No surprises there, but it's how the game is. It's how the series has been. These enemies are supposed to be faster than you. They're supposed to outclass you. You're essentially supposed to feel the same way that all those rivals that you absolutely blew their doors off in like 25 seconds at most felt the rest of the game. It's supposed to flip the tables and create a new challenge that just didn't exist beforehand. I know some people will say, oh, well, just because that's the way it was doesn't mean that's the way it should be. I strongly feel that these boss battles have to remain boss battles, that you actually, like, I don't have a very good chance here, and you have to think about it a little bit more, because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? You've already raced, 200 other people besides that, most of them were pretty easy. How dare there actually be a couple actual challenges in this game? I don't know. It drives me crazy. It is what it is. Reject modernity, embrace tradition, and play some Tokyo Xtreme Racer because it's a janky PS2 game, and that's what it is. It doesn't need to be anything other than a janky PS2 game because it is what it is. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.